Hey folks, today I'm going to be demoing the one color flat brioche stitch. It's used in my OG Cush Cowl pattern. It has you doing a setup row on the wrong side and then knitting your brioche stitch on the front side and then the back and then the front, and you repeat as many times as desired to get the length of fabric. And of course the pattern I've written gives you a start and an end. So let's get started. So I've worked my pattern with selvage edge, so I'm going to model that here. So my first stitch is a slip stitch. Then I'm going to bring my yarn to the front. I have a slip with a yarn over. You'll notice that this yarn over is front to back. Wrap the needle, and it creates this sort of collar or crisscross shape, if you will, for your slip one yarn over direction. Then your next direction is to purl, and you repeat these until you get to the last one stitch before the end of the row. So let's continue. Needle comes back to front, slip it off, place your yarn over, and then purl your next stitch. Slip, that's the yarn over collar, and then purl your next stitch. Slip, purl over, purl. And I like to space these out so I can see that I am actively doing my best to get what I need out of this. So that if this is a purl, this one is a slip with a yarn over and then purl. So here we are at our last stitch. I did say that I have a selvage stitch, and so I'm just going to knit the stitch. Okay, now to do the actual brioche stitching on the right side of the work. So the right side of the work calls for, and again still English knitting, calls for a slip stitch. This stitch that was a purl on the other side, you're now going to give those stitches a collar. So you're going to slip, bring the yarn forward, slip, give it a collar, and then you're going to knit these two together. In your pattern, it's going to say BRK. That's the symbol or the languaging for a brioche right side knit stitch. So we're on the next stitch. Bring the yarn forward, slip it, give it its yarn over, leave the yarn in the back, and then knit these two together, which is your bark stitch. And I again like to sort of space these out so I can see what I'm doing. So forward, slip, yarn over, bring these two together to bark. Slip, yarn over, that's your yarn over, and then bring these two, they're knit together for your bark stitch. And you just continue with this pattern until you reach the end. And again, because my pattern has a selvage stitch, I've got the knit one on this side. So the tricky part is we are wired to do right side, wrong side. This one is just the one. So we'll turn around to our back side of our work. We'll slip the first stitch. You'll give it a yarn over and a blanket. This time you'll bring these two together, and there you go. So again, slip, yarn over, knit these two together, that's your BRK. Set up for your yarn over, slip this yarn over, BRK. Slip, that's your yarn over, BRK. Slip, BRK, and then we're at the end, so there's our one. Now we're going to turn our work again. Slip, slip, yarn over, knit these two together, slip, there's our yarn over, knit these two together, you just have this easy going pattern that starts to create raised rows as you knit. And that's our selvage stitch, which just so happens to be our knit. We're going to turn around, turn our work again, and I'm going to unwind my needles here. So slip, yarn over, slip, this becomes our yarn over, and you can use your other fingers to hold the things in place. BRK, so knit those two together, yarn over, slip, and we're back at the selvage. So slip one, bring it forward, knit these two together, bark, slip yarn over, bark, slip yarn over, bark, slip yarn over, bark, and last selvage stitch. So we'll go back to the start of this piece, and you can kind of start to see, it takes a few rows to see the raised edge and the sort of valley in between. Mountains, valley, mountains, valley, canal, waterway, however you like to think of it. It creates a raised edge, and then the back side is the same. I hope that this video helps you to visualize and practice your brioche one color flat stitch so that you too can create whatever you set your mind to. I think sometimes just the practice of stitches, testing different stitches out, leads to wonderful moments of creativity. So last stitch is our selvage stitch. So some other things I want to bring attention to is obviously gauge is different on a brioche stitch. So this is the back of the work. You can see that this sort of starts to fan out because there's some buoyancy between those stitches versus the bottom stitches. Still done on the same needle, but we've got these beautiful sort of valleys and ridges. And then the front side of the work if you desire this to be the front side of your work. Again, there's all of our knit stitches, our mountains and valleys, canal, and waterway. Okay. The next video, I'm gonna frog this back and then demo it continental. So, hope this helps.